The next item is public meeting item number 2, so also in your green packet, and this is an application for a certificate of appropriateness at 233 Water Street in the South Street Seaport Historic District, docket number 15-7715, block 97, lot 49. And this is a two-story structure built in the mid-20th century, and the application is to alter the facades, replace windows and doors, and install rooftop mechanical equipment and a fence.
Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. Caroline Passion, Preservation staff. The subject property is located between Beekman Street and Peck Slip. These are historic photographs. This is showing the building in the early 20th century. It was later demolished. And this is a 1980 tax photograph showing the building, which was constructed circa 1950. So there are a few components to this application. First, at the front facade, the applicant is proposing to remove all roll-down gates, windows, doors, and signage, removing the stuccoed masonry below this masonry opening to enlarge it to grade, raising the lintel at the service entrance door to align with the lintels of the larger openings, and to install metal casement windows and doors within all these openings and the enlarged opening here, and to install a canopy at the new entrance. Second, at the roof, the applicant's proposing to install this fence and bulkheads, which you'll see later in the presentation, and some mechanical equipment. Mock-ups were constructed, and these rooftop additions will be visible over the primary facade, but from a distance to a parking lot from Beekman, Pearl Streets, and Peck Slip. And then finally, at the rear facade, the applicant is proposing to create new openings for windows, and this will not be visible from a public thoroughfare. So the applicant, Liz McEnany, and the architect, Phil Overton, are here to discuss this proposal in more detail. Thank you, Caroline. Good morning, Commissioner.
As Caroline said, we're here for the application for facade alteration and rooftop addition to the property at 233 Water Street. I'm Liz McEnany. I'm a preservationist working with the architecture firm Pell Overton and also the client, the Blue School. With me from the Blue School is Blakely Braniff, and from Pell Overton, Ben Pell, Michael Nelson, and Dan Birdsey. I'm briefly going to take you through just an introduction of what we're conceptualizing and then hand the presentation off to Ben Pell, who will go through the design. Just to situate the building, here you can see the red dot where it's located in the historic district. The building is currently leased by the Blue School, which is an independent elementary school located adjacent in the property at 241 Water Street, the former Siemens Church Institute building. The school is looking to expand into 233 Water Street in order to open a middle school extension, which is scheduled to open in fall of 2015. So just taking you through the proposed work. The proposed work will preserve the character of this two-story 1946 warehouse building, adapting the building to new community use. It's also going to connect to 241 Water Street, the interior, so that there'll be a continuous use of the programming and operation within the school. And we'll update the building to provide ADA accessibility and code compliance egress. So just in thinking about the design, to show you a few historic photos, again, the building dates from 1946. To the left, you have the 5-story building, which it replaced at that time. We, in thinking about the design, went around the neighborhood and looked at some neighborhood precedents. Block 97 in particular has a range of architectural styles that are found in the Seaport Historic District. This block in particular has also changed significantly since the district was designated in 1977. So here you're seeing again the adjacent building, the Siemens Church Institute building, has a metal storefront, 3-story brick on top with the 2-story enamel structure reminiscent of seafaring vessels. And around the corner you have work from Hook and Fox from 2006, which again you're seeing some rooftop additions that use metal and setbacks. And at the ground floor, you're seeing metal awnings and of the use of glass. You can also see this around the corner at French Street and in more recent projects such as 276 Water Street. So before handing it over to Ben, I just wanted to mention that we have met with Landmark staff and incorporated a lot of the changes that they recommended. We met with them in early June, and we also presented to CB1 in early July and had unanimous support.
Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, I'm Ben Pell from Pell Overton Architects, and as both Liz and Caroline mentioned, our project is proposing to reuse 233 Water Street, you can see here, as an extension of Blue School's current facility to the north at 241 Water Street, which is the old Siemens Church Institute building. In addition to the interior build-out for classrooms and office spaces, we're proposing alterations to the facade, 2 rooftop bulkheads which are partially visible from the street, and new windows on the east and north elevations which are not visible from the street. And I'll walk you through each of these 3 areas. The intention of the facade design is to identify our building with the school's current home to the north, but to at the same time preserve many of 233's unique features which participate in the varied fabric of the seaport. To that end, the 3 aspects of the design approach are to preserve the massing of the 1940s era warehouse building, to continue the material palette, the window frames, and storefront paint color, and modern architectural vocabulary of Blue School's building to the north, but to also refer to the ground level storefront datum of the neighborhood 19th century 130 Beekman Street to the south. To walk through the primary street elevation changes, the north loading dock will be retained. The existing masonry opening, the roll down gates, as Caroline mentioned, will be removed and replaced with large casement windows. These will be kind of typical swing out casements. The south loading dock will be dropped or eliminated to create an ADA accessible entry. There's currently no ADA accessibility in this building. The existing fire stair, there's 1 stair in the building along the south wall, is non-code compliant. So in dropping this loading dock here, we're creating an ADA accessible entry into the building, announced by a small canopy which projects 48 inches from the street line, street wall rather, and is intended to kind of pick up this datum line of the storefronts to the south. The existing service door roll-down gate will be removed, and the existing masonry opening will be enlarged to pick up the datum line of our storefront. You'll see in the next slide, which shows our facade in context, that it's typical that storefront datums are continuous across the entire facade, so we wanted to try and emphasize that as well here. On the second floor, the existing windows will be replaced at existing masonry openings. We'll be replacing the lintels down below and repairing as needed the existing soldier coursing. Above these lintels will remain. The windows will be replaced in existing masonry openings with tilted turn windows, which are similar in operation to the windows at 241 to the north. And the masonry piers between them will be wrapped in a steel surround that will be painted the same color as the steel on the building to the north. All of the metal elements on the facade will be painted to match the paint color. We have some samples here, which I'll point to at the end of the presentation. The coping will remain, it will be cleaned up. The existing hoistway parapet change, we had initially proposed to bring that down to create more of a continuous datum. In our initial meeting with Landmarks, I believe in June, there was a recommendation that we keep that's part of the character of the facade, needs to be complied. The hoistway that on the back of that parapet will be removed to create more space on the roof for recreational occupancy, but the profile of the facade will remain. One of the advantages of removing the hoistway is it also gives us a lot of original brick to work with in the event that some of the existing brick needs to be repaired. Lastly, on the roof, we're proposing a 10-foot fence. There will be recreation on the other side of this fence on the roof for the school. I have a sample of that fence here. That is a stainless steel mesh. It's the same mesh at the Imagination Playground at Burling Slip nearby. The pieces here are not round. These are actually flat galvanized metal posts, which I will also show you in detail momentarily. This is an image of the existing building in context. Again, I talked earlier about the idea that the storefront elevation is consistent across the length of these buildings. So in our modification to the facade, we felt it was important, while referring to the datum of the building to the south, to also allow our building to have its own kind of integrity as something which kind of presents a consistent facade with all the elements tied together. Here you can see an elevation bulkhead. One of the entries between our building and 241 will have a roof. This is a bulkhead over here. The proposed material for that bulkhead is cement board, dark cement board, which we have a sample of here. I'll show you shortly. The other thing I wanted to point out, we're required by the city's Appendix G flood codes, which went into act at the end of last year, to wet flood-proof the base of the cellar of this building. So what you're looking at here, and I'll just go back to the detail elevation, what you're looking at here are flood vents. We have a sample here, which if you're interested, we can pass around. This would be powder coated to match all the other metal elements on the facade. Lastly, it's hard to see in this projection, but there's a small security camera here and one that will be mounted to the bottom of the canopy. And I'll show you a detail of what that is in a second. This is a detail of some of the brick repair and repointing. Our contractors estimated roughly 15% of the facade needs repair. We are going to repoint the entire facade. This existing fence is being removed. This is the parapet, the elevated parapet at the hoistway that will remain. Again, the coping will remain. All soldier coursing will remain and be repaired. Some images of some of the existing deterioration. These bumper guards will be removed. The stucco will be removed from the bottom of the loading dock to expose the underlying brick, which will be restored. These lintels at the loading docks will be replaced. Again, the soldier coursing will be restored. These lintels at the upper windows will remain, and all the repointing will be done here. This is a panel of stone, which actually comes over from 130 Beekman and overlaps our building. That will remain as well. Again, our intention was to try and maintain as much of these kind of idiosyncratic character elements of the building, while also upgrading it and making it feel like it's part of the adjacent school building to the north. A detail here of the facade. At the back of the building, as I mentioned, there's only one stair in this building currently, which will be upgraded to be code compliant. In order to have a second means of egress from the second floor and the roof, we're making a connection through 241 and using a fire stair, which is just on the other side of the party wall, as part of our egress. On the first floor, where we can't make a connection between the two buildings, we are proposing a new egress door that exits into the back of 214 Front Street, which you see here. There is a breezeway which leads directly to the street, an open breezeway. We have an egress easement in place with the Church Corporation for the use of their courtyard for this purpose. And so what that would require is that we produce a new opening here for a door. At the same time, because there's a classroom and offices back here, we're also proposing new windows. Again, none of this is visible from the street. These windows will be replaced with new windows similar to the street facade, existing lintels to remain. Here's the proposed new windows, door, and a stair that gets us down. This stair is designed to match an existing stair in that courtyard. And again, here we have the 10-foot fence with the same details. On the north elevation, also not visible from the street, we have a wall. On our side, it's a classroom. On the 241 side, it's their rear terrace, which is a recreation space for them. And so, in keeping with the kind of nautical spirit and aesthetic of the seaport, we're proposing a couple, 5 new windows, round portal windows, which overlook that terrace. And again, the 10-foot fence wraps around here to the face of 241 Water Street. And you can see here, just go back for a second, the other bulkhead, which is at the top of our primary south stair, which gives us access to the roof as well. That would also be wrapped with the same detail of cement board in trying to pick a color that would complement the painted steel on the facade.
Okay. Are there any questions? I'm sorry, it was a very thorough presentation, yes. Commissioner.
It's a little sedate on the front facade for the seaport. Have you thought about or even considered having a sign at the sign band again?
A sign at the sign band?
Yeah, I mean, the Alba Seaport specialty sign isn't all that bad, and you've just got that tiny little sign in your window now.
Well, the primary entry to the building, there is an entrance here, obviously, to come in and out. The primary entrance and access into this building will be through 241, and I think the client...
It will still be okay.
I think the client, and there is actually a large canopy and a big banner from the school. I think the client is concerned that drawing too much attention to this door might confuse... We have a problem with the sign. Right.
All right, other questions?
Yeah,
Yes.
just to pick up on the sedate, because as you're talking about keeping the elements that are quirky or something, the only one that I can think of is that little piece of stone that actually belongs to the adjacent building. So, you know, you're taking off the bumpers, you're really cleaning it up so much that it then starts to look like a building of another place. And I'm just wondering if you could clean it up a little bit less, you know, that's really.
I
Yeah.
have to kind of point to the skill of our renderers. I think in many ways this facade is going to retain a lot of the grittiness. We aren't, at one point we had talked to LPC about applying a face brick to really try and match 241. That was not well received. And so our feeling was that, in fact, by repointing the brick but keeping the brick, you're going to see a lot of the kind of grittiness of that facade that stays over time.
Right, and I just think, I mean, I know, I would say that amongst all the buildings in the seaport, this building to begin with is not probably one of the most prominent, and so I think that if it's sedate, it's fine because some of the other buildings actually should come out more than this one. So, and I understand that the bumpers have been taken away, but in some ways, I think I have more concerns that you put bumpers and pretend it's a loading dock when it's not a loading dock anymore. So I think this is, you know, it's a simple design. It doesn't call too much attention to itself. It restores some of the brickwork. It tries to retain the proportions of fenestration to brick and solid form. So I think it's pretty good, actually, and quite appropriate. Oh, okay, I jumped the gun, but let's take public testimony. Are there any more questions for the applicant right now? All right, Barbara Zay?
Barbara Zay of the Historic Districts Council. HDC supports the adaptive reuse of this fishing industry building and commends the applicant for preserving existing openings, including the location of the former loading dock and window openings. That said, the committee suggests choosing a more transparent fence set back at the building's termination. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more speakers? All right, Community Board 1 recommends approval of this project. Any questions for the applicant, or we can close the hearing? All right, we can close the hearing. Yes, you'd like to add, you want to add something more?
In response to the question about the transparency.
Yes.
I do have a sample of the fence here.
Okay.
It's actually very transparent.
All right, thank you. Make a motion to close. Are we all in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Comments and questions? I think I've already said my piece. Yes, sir.
And a couple thoughts. I think this is kind of a lyrical response to a 40s building, which isn't necessarily a part of the Seaport gestalt, but I think you've taken something and made something kind of wonderful out of it, and I think it's highly appropriate. I think it's also important that it's not necessarily now related to or part of the building next door. It's kept separate. And I'll just stop with asking my fellow commissioners, do we think that this rooftop addition would be approved by this commission today?
Oh, the one that's behind it, I don't know. I would question that as well.
And I'm asking that because I think we should think about that.
It's very visible, and sometimes visible additions are appropriate. It's a ship on the roof. All right, I think, are we all fine with this project? Okay, very good. So, Marjorie, you want to read that? Thank you.
In the matter of a certificate of appropriateness for 233 Water Street in the South Street Seaport Historic District, the application is to alter facades, replace windows and doors, and install rooftop mechanical equipment and a fence. I recommend approval, finding that the removal of the roll-down gates at the ground floor and metal casement windows at the second floor will not result in the removal of significant historic fabric, that lowering the sill and removing stuccoed masonry at the south loading dock will result in only partial removal of this loading bay, that the proposed infill at the enlarged south loading bay opening, featuring a large metal display window, transoms, and door, and a protecting metal canopy, will be in keeping with storefronts found at commercial buildings in this historic district, that the proposed windows at the north loading bay will be recessed approximately 10 inches from the plane of the facade, thereby recalling the void at this loading dock, that the proposed material and finish of the blue-gray painted metal storefront infill, windows, window enframement, and doors will be consistent with storefronts and metal elements found at buildings of this age and type, that the flood vents located at the lower portion of the bulkhead will not call undue attention to themselves, that although the proposed non-occupiable rooftop additions consisting of black painted framing with stainless steel mesh, stair bulkheads enclosed by dark gray cement fiberboard rain screen panels and mechanical units will be visible over the primary facade, they will only be seen at a distance through a parking lot from Water Street, Beekman Street, and Peck Slip. That the rooftop additions on this two-story building will be seen in context with the surrounding taller buildings and against the backdrop of other rooftop accretions. That the new openings and alterations at the rear facade will not cause the removal of significant historic fabric and will not be visible from a public thoroughfare. And that the proposed work will not detract from the special architectural and historic character of the building and the historic district.
All in favor? Any opposed? Resolution